With over 500,000 sales every year, the Chevrolet Silverado is without a doubt the most important nameplate that Chevy currently offers here in North America. In fact, the gas-powered Silverado has been around since 2019, and it certainly has the chops necessary to go head-to-head with the best from Ford with the F-150 and of course Ram with the 1500. Now, as most of you guys know, the industry continues to move toward full electrification, even when you talk about pickup trucks. And while GM is certainly playing a little catch-up for 2025, they are finally ready to go toe-to-toe with the Lightning, the Rivian, and of course the Tesla Cybertruck with this model here. This is the 2025 Chevrolet Silverado EV RST. It offers the most range in the segment at up to 460 miles, courtesy of a 205 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and it also offers the flexibility that you kind of expected from the discontinued Chevrolet Avalanche with the Multi-Flex midgate at the back. So as you can see, this week we are testing out the fully loaded Silverado EV RST, and the big question I want to answer for those of you who are looking for an all-electric truck with a lot more range and a little more flexibility than most of its rivals, how does the latest 2025 Silverado EV RST stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the unique styling touches of the Silverado EV compared to the gas-powered counterpart, let me go ahead and pop the hood area here and show you guys just how much storage space you get underneath the frunk. Now, obviously, because it has no gas engine, a lot of pickup trucks are able to utilize this space here to give you a lot of covered storage, and in the form of the Silverado EV, you get just under 11 cubic feet. Now, as you can see underneath that power opening and closing hood, there is a pretty decent storage area down here. In fact, it is a little bit smaller versus the Lightning, which offers around 14 cubic feet, but still just under 11 cubic feet here is certainly very usable. There's also some nice features in here for tailgating. It looks like there's a cup holder off to the side. There's also a drain plug in here if you want to use this as a cool box. Although, because of the way the trunk is shaped, if you did fill this up with ice, for example, all the water would kind of leak out of the front if you guys fill it up, I guess, up to the top. But overall, once you're underneath here, there is a pretty good amount of space. But let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs, at least for now. Here in America, when this vehicle first launched, Chevy only offered it in the work truck and in the RST configuration. They've expanded the availability to also include an LT trim, although this is the RST that we're showing you, which means you have dual electric motors, standard front and rear, giving this vehicle electronic four-wheel drive, and you also get up to 760 horsepower and 785 pound-feet of torque. Obviously, that is a lot of power. It's also got more power versus the F-150 Lightning, which I believe has 580, this truck's main rival, but it also does have less power versus the GMC Hummer EV pickup truck, which offers around 1,200 horsepower when you guys have it in the WTF launch mode. In this truck, however, 760 is still a lot. They all draw power from a large, very large 205 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It's the largest in the pickup truck segment, and that's precisely why this truck offers the most range at up to 460 miles. They actually improved the range from 440 from back in 2024. Now, it all goes out through a one-speed reduction gear transmission. Chevrolet says in the wide open Watts mode, or WOW mode, you'll get to 60 in around 4.5 seconds, or less than 4.5 seconds. We'll test it out when we get this vehicle out on the road. It should have a top speed of around 120-ish miles an hour, and this is still a truck, so you expect it to tow. It'll tow up to 12,500 pounds. That's an improvement of 2,500 pounds versus when this truck was first revealed in late 2023. It'll haul up to 1,500 pounds of payload in the bed. And as this truck sits, because of the large battery pack, it's only offered in a crew cab configuration. This truck weighs in at just under 8,800 pounds. So this is a good 1,000 pounds heavier versus a comparable Ford F-150 Lightning. But let's go ahead and close up the front hood here, which, as you can see, there's a little button area here, which kind of is a pain in the butt to find when you're not looking at it. But you can see it closes up the front trunk, and this vehicle's styling element here very much looks kind of like a combination of like a Chevrolet Bolt meets the front end of a pickup truck. I'm not a fan of the design of this truck. In fact, GMC sells a sister version called the Sierra EV Denali, and I think GMC just did a much better job with the design. This black exterior color of my test truck isn't a color that I would go for personally, although it does show a lot of really nice lines. It shows the lines of the truck off nicely, especially on the bulging hood. The front fascia, you can see no grille in the grille area. Instead, you just have a closed off portion with the illuminated Chevy bow tie logo. There's the RST badge. There's the signature full LED light bar that goes across the front end with the headlights that are divorced from the actual daytime running light assembly. You can see you have a sequential LED turn signal. This vehicle also offers their walk up and walk away lighting animations. If you're an owner of the car, it certainly makes the truck feel a little bit more special. There are some functional openings there to the side, some actual functional openings with active grille shutters there at the lower fascia. And you can see there are some nicely integrated parking sensors, your front camera system, and then your radar system is located there at the top of the windshield. But overall, I definitely think that this truck may look better in certain other colors versus this black exterior color, but personally I think that the Sierra version of this truck is the better looking option. But again, looks are always subjective. Now, moving around the side profile, remember I said this is built off of a dedicated EV architecture, so this shares a platform with the GMC Hummer EV truck. It's the Ultium architecture, which means it's not a traditional body on frame, and you also have an independent front and rear suspension. So this is very different versus the body on frame F-150 Lightning, which basically is the body on frame with battery packs stuffed in between the frames. This again is very different. It has a 145-inch long wheelbase with a 233-inch long overall length. This truck is 83.7 inches wide, so it's around 2 inches longer than the regular gas-powered Silverado, but the wheelbase is 2 inches shorter. It's around 2.5 inches wider as well, so this is a wide truck. Now, it also has one of the biggest wheels that you'll ever find on a production vehicle. Those are a massive 24-inch wheel. That's right, a 24-inch wheel on a 275 by 50 R24 tire. These wheels are exclusive to the RST. Big brakes, of course, four-wheel discs. You have an adjustable air suspension where you can raise and lower the truck. And you also have standard four-wheel steering, but this truck is missing the crab walk feature that you get in the Hummer and in the GMC Sierra EV Denali. You can see the wheel arch trim here is body colored, which is nice. Body colored side mirrors along with turn signals and integrated cameras, of course. You have these integrated running boards as well to the side, although they aren't the retractable kind like you find on the gas-powered versions of this truck. And then you can see above me here, standard panoramic glass roof that doesn't open up to vent air, but it does let in a ton of light, which is nice. And then backing up from the profile here, you can really see that this truck very much looks like a modern day Chevrolet Avalanche. And that's because it has some features there like the multi-flex midgate, which we've shown you can basically fold down to allow items up to 10 feet, 10 inches long. At the rear, you can see the design really much reminds me of a Chevrolet Avalanche, like a modern day version. You have full LED taillights, obviously, with LED turn signals, LED reverse lights. It's got the Silverado badging there with the electric E badge, of course, with the RST badge there to show this is the rally sport truck, the sport-oriented model. And then down here you can see the rear bumper has the integrated tow hitch along with a nice integrated side step there to the side. The charge port door, as you can see before I forget, is located here on the driver's side rear fender. And as you can see, this vehicle does run on the 800-volt architecture. It allows this truck to charge or accept up to 350 kilowatts on a max DC fast charger with a 11 kilowatt onboard charger. So you can basically charge this truck up on a level 2. It'll probably take you around 15 hours. If you guys go for the optional 19.2 kilowatt charger, I believe that can shorten the time to around 10 hours. On a level 3, Chevrolet says you can basically add 100 miles of range in about 10 minutes. So that's pretty quick. But again, with that big battery pack, it's going to cost you a pretty penny to charge this thing up, especially if you're at a public charger or even at your home charger at home. It can still be relatively expensive. In terms of the tailgate area, you can see it has the multi-flex tailgate, which you can basically open up in the traditional way to access the 5-foot 11-inch long bed, which is the only bed length that you can get. Because of the multi-flex function, you can also open this down and to kind of create like a little step if you want to use this as a step to get in. Chevy says that that step can accommodate up to 375 pounds. The bed itself can hold up to 1,500 pounds of payload, which is nice. My test car also has the flexible 3-piece folding tonneau cover. And again, if you want to fold down the midgate there, it will basically allow you to put items up to 9 feet long with the bed closed, with the tailgate closed. Or if you fold down the bed and use a bed extender, you can do items up to 10 feet, 10 inches long, which is pretty impressive. It's one of the big selling features, of course, with the Silverado EV RST. There's also lots of power outlets you're going to find. You're going to find a 220 outlet here, and you're also going to find 4 more actual 12-volt power outlets in there, or household power outlets. This basically allows the truck to power your home for up to like 10 days, I believe that's what Chevy said, depending on certain conditions. But it's definitely nice to have a big battery pack, larger than the F-150 Lightning, to basically use this vehicle as like a rolling charging station or a rolling generator. It's one of the big selling features, obviously, with these fully electric trucks. So moving on to the interior of this 2025 Chevrolet Silverado EV RST. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current intelligent access key that Chevy uses on a lot of their products. It's got the black bow tie logo on it. It has lots of buttons here for unlock or for lock, unlock, remote start. You can also open up the tailgate. You can also open up the frunk, and you can also activate the panic function from the key fob. It's a nice looking key. It's a good size key that fits in your pocket or purse nicely. As you approach the door handle, you can see unlike other EVs which have those pop out door handles, Chevy just went with a traditional pull style. Basically touch that lock button there, that will lock the door for you. This vehicle also has the auto walk-away lock or unlock feature. The mirrors will also power fold. When you open up the door, you can see the truck is already on. For me, I left it on when I stepped out of here to show you guys that clip. But as you can see, this interior, if you guys prefer a lighter color interior, there's a new Sky Cool Gray option for 2025. It still has mostly a black interior, but you have kind of gray bolsters on the side. This is the standard black Evo Tech, so it's a fake leather material with the contrast red and blue stitching, which looks nice. These are also heated and ventilated. And you also have 10-way power adjustable driver's seat with 2-person memory on the driver's side. These seats, even though it's a fake leather, they have a really nice feel to them. The heat and cooled functionality works well. No massaging seats, which you can't get in this truck or in the GMC version. But it certainly makes a decent first impression. Looking at the door panels, this is where things start to go downhill. Unfortunately, you can see this upper portion is a hard touch injection molded plastic, which kind of feels a little cheap and scratchy and rubberized. There's also more cheap looking plastic here. There is some nice Evotex leather here with the RST badge with the contrast stitch. Only the 2 front windows are 1 touch up down. The rears are just 1 touch down, but not 1 touch up. They should be 1 touch for all 4 considering the price point. And then down here you can see there's lots of hard touch plastic, some piano black plastic. You have the upgraded Bose stereo, which sounds good if you guys are an audiophile, but overall it doesn't sound great at first glance when you look at the interior if you're expecting more luxury. Now getting inside, you can see nice little running board to help short people like myself get in. As I hoist myself up and close the door, it has a relatively solid sounding thunk. The car kept beeping annoyingly because I left the headlights on. It's also extremely cold and windy today, if you guys also didn't notice, but once you're in here, you can see the interior looks pretty similar to other GM and Chevy products with their newest infotainment systems. So as you can see, we have the newer Chevy steering wheel with the RST badge, flat bottom design, nice contrast red stitching, and you can see Super Cruise is also included on this trim, free, I believe, for 3 years. So that's a really nice feature to have. Behind me, or behind the steering wheel, you have a 11-inch digital instrument cluster, and then over here to the side, you have a 17.7-inch display. Now this is, of course, Android operating based. It has Google built in. It also has access to the Google Play Store where you can download apps like PlugShare, Waze, and Spotify. However, if you're looking for wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it is not included on this truck, and that's because it's fully electric. GM seems to believe that if you guys go for their electric models, you don't need wireless Apple CarPlay, which I think is a huge mistake. I think they're going to be backpedaling if they get enough complaints from owners and dealerships alike. Because, for example, while I can put Waze in this system here, it's not quite the same as what I get from my phone. And if I also use Apple Music, you're not going to get Apple Music in here because Google and Apple don't play together very nicely. Now you can see there's also a heads-up display over there, which is great. And then if you look at the rest of the cabin materials, there's a lot of cheap plastic, unfortunately. Now, just like on the cheap door panels on the dashboard, it also has that cheap rubberized effect. There is some faux stitching here along the dash, and it is slightly padded, but again, it feels incredibly cheap. I don't love the plastic, as you can see up at that expansive part of the dash. It also has really terrible fit and finish, at least I'm seeing from my particular test car here, which isn't great. The view out of the front, however, is nice. You can see out of the windshield quite well. There are some hood bulges you have to deal with, but in terms of, expecting this interior to feel more like a luxury vehicle, this is where the GMC Sierra comes into play with a much nicer interior. There is a nice little big volume knob here, which is great. And then Google, of course, is built in where it works really well. It will also route you along the way where charging stations are if you guys input a destination, which is important if you guys go on longer road trips. And as you can see, with 94% state of charge, my test car is showing 414 miles. That's the best I've ever seen from any pickup truck, minus, of course, the GM version of this vehicle. Now, of course, there are some controls embedded into the screen. Headlight controls now are in the screen, as I showed you guys from other GM products. You can also quick access it from there. If you want to go into the auto mode, there's also see more controls over here. If you want to access your drive mode selector, that's going to be located here. There's 4 different modes in addition to a 5th mode. If you put it into wide open watts, it creates a little sound effect that gives you the full 760 horsepower. There's also a tow mode there. So we'll try out the different drive modes later on during the driving scene. But if you want to put the truck into reverse, you can see there's your full top-down 360 camera. I don't love how big this screen is. It only takes up a small portion of the screen there when you guys want to access the 360 cam. I think that's a little bit of a silly omission. If you start turning the wheel, you can see there's trajectory, there's distance markers, there's rear cross-traffic braking. You can also go into a different view there where you can actually show, it looks like what's actually in the bed there. You can also go to the front view, an overhead view, a side view, a curb view to keep you from curbing those massive 20-inch wheels, or I'm sorry, 24-inch wheels. And then if you want to go back to the home screen here, you can see this is where all your usual sources are. You can also go into other things like your trailing assist. You can go to your settings. There's a Wi-Fi hotspot built in. So overall, I like the size of the screen there, but I think I still prefer the 16.8-inch portrait style screen that you find in the Sierra. That also lacks wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but again, that's something that GMC and Chevy could eventually fix later down the road. Now you can see there's dual zone climate control. Your heated and cooled seat control is located here along with your heated steering wheel controls. You do have a regen paddle there to engage maximum regen braking. Super Cruise's access here. You have a power tilt telescoping wheel, which is nice. It's what you expect when you have a vehicle that's this expensive. And then there's also traditional knobs down here if you guys want to adjust the climate, along with your actual hard buttons for your climate control. You have a wireless phone charging pad there. Lots of piano black over here, which I don't love. You can see it shows dust and fingerprints and scratches quite easily. Nice size cup holders, additional storage over here, more storage over here. There's a nice padded center console. Open this up, however, you can see there's actually not a lid to actually lock this into place, but you'll find a USB in there. Pretty good storage. Two more USBs over here in this front part of the center console. More cup holders here for the second row passengers. Like I said earlier, the seats are pretty comfortable and supportive. They just don't hold you in place for aggressive driving. You have a little storage shelf over here for the passenger side. Then you can open that up. You can see the glove box is bin style. It's damped but not lined with felt. It offers a decent amount of storage. There's a digital camera rearview mirror along with a traditional mirror. If you guys don't prefer that, you have a woven material for the headliner, and then that massive panoramic glass roof goes all the way into the second row. It just doesn't open up to vent air, but it does have a very dark tint to it if you guys are worried about the sun kind of beating down on you. But overall, the interior has some pretty impressive technology. It just needs wireless CarPlay, and I also really find the interior to be really cheaply done. Again, the GMC version of this truck is only $3,000 more, and it may be worth it if you guys prefer the nicer interior with real wood trim and much better fit and finish. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area, and I can show you guys what that space is like. Now, because this truck is so big, you get a ton of second row legroom. Around 44 inches of legroom is actually 2 more inches versus what you get in the gas-powered version of the truck. You can see, sadly, material quality is all still hard touch plastic, a sea of ugly black plastic here. At least it's nice and padded over here. Nice storage compartments down here. But again, no really high quality interior materials. You can see, you can flip this up here if you want to access the little storage area underneath the seat, or you can also make this mid-gate fold down, which is really difficult for me to do with one hand. So I'll show you guys a B-roll clip of that. But as you can see, because the truck is so darn wide, you can actually easily fit 3 people across. There's a nice little grab handle here to help short people like myself get in. And once you kind of get in, you can see, closing the door, there's just so much space back here for me to easily stretch my legs out. I can easily cross my legs. There's also a completely flat floor here because of the Ultium architecture. You have 3-level heated seats along with your actual climate vents back here. There's 2 more USB-C charging ports and an actual household power outlet. You have 2 storage cubbies, of course. And then there's also an armrest here that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. You have LED map lighting, a ton, and I mean a ton of headroom space, even though we have this panoramic glass roof for somebody my height. So overall, if you plan to use this as a family vehicle, the Silverado EV and the Sierra EV obviously are going to offer near best-in-class second row legroom. And this is where, you know, if you have super tall friends or a lot of people to put back here or stuff, this is going to be a ridiculously practical car. So here we are back behind the wheel of the first ever fully electric Chevrolet Silverado. Remember, unlike Ford with the F-150 Lightning, Chevy decided to start from scratch the Ultium architecture for their Silverado EV. This shares nothing with the traditional gas-powered CR-V because it is built off of a dedicated battery electric platform. It has a fully independent suspension. It's not a traditional body-on-frame design. It certainly feels very much like a very different truck versus the gas-powered Silverado, although you get a sense that you're driving a big vehicle because this is only available in a crew cab configuration. Now, Sharing a platform with the Ultium architecture means several things. First of all, this vehicle is huge. It's 83.5 inches wide. It's around 2 inches wider than the standard Silverado. And we have a massive battery pack, 205 kilowatt hours, means this has the most range in the segment. At least it's tied with the Sierra EV Denali. On a full charge, this vehicle was showing around 440 miles of range, which is huge. I mean, the last time I saw an EV that had that much range, I was in a Lucid Air, which again, that is a sedan versus a big pickup truck like this vehicle. Now, with 760 horsepower from its dual electric motors, this truck has the ability to sprint to 60 in around 4.2 seconds or 4.5 seconds, according to Chevy. Let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise on our usual stretch of road here. We have it in the wide open watts power mode here. We'll brake torque it. Oh, God. 4.13 seconds there. 4.13 is pretty much the same as what I got when I first tested this truck along with its Sierra EV Denali twin, literally earlier this month for the Sierra, 6 months ago for the Chevy. It's not quite as fast as the quickest Ford F-150 Lightning. And also keep in mind, if you guys are looking at like the Rivian R1T in the dual or quad motor configuration or a Tesla Cybertruck, those trucks are gonna be even quicker still versus this truck, but still just over 4 seconds is no slouch. And the wide open watts mode, that's how you access it from the little screen right here. When you tap that, it basically gives you the max power, although Chevy doesn't quote what the power is when you don't have it in the wide open watts mode. It's still a ridiculously quick truck regardless. Now, it doesn't quite have the full-on launch control that you get in the GMC Hummer EV, but it does give you a form of launch control versus in the Sierra EV Denali, but still 4.13 seconds is nothing to sneeze at, and it certainly will remind you that this is a quick truck every time you put your foot down. Anytime you just put your foot down again in wide open watts mode, it just kind of pushes you back in the seats, or in the seat quite, with nice authority, and it makes you realize like this truck is seriously fast. I mean, the gas-powered Silverado RST has nothing against the EV version of this truck. Now, the downside of it having this massive battery pack and being as large as it is the Silverado EV RST feels huge when you go down the road. I mean, it's 2.5 inches wider than the standard truck. It's a 145-inch long wheelbase, 233-inch long overall length. It's actually longer than the gas-powered truck by 2 inches, but you just got a sense that you're driving something that almost feels like it, is from the Hummer family. Obviously, they're the same truck, but that's the one thing about this and the Lightning is the Lightning feels noticeably smaller. It feels noticeably nimbler. And again, these are trucks. They're not certainly fun to drive or sporty, but you just get a sense that you're driving something much larger. Put my foot down. The one thing I also noticed with this truck is it actually has torque steer. And that's kind of like carried over from what I experienced in the GMC Hummer is when you put your foot down, you can actually feel the front end tugging at you and it's trying to pull you in one direction. You're having to fight the wheel, which is weird because it's dual motor all-wheel drive, but it has torque steer like a front-wheel drive vehicle, which I find it to be infuriating. It's something that I think GMC engineers need to tune out at some point. The fake noise that it makes also certainly makes this thing a little bit more interesting when you put your foot down. If you take it out of wide open watts, it actually gets rid of the fake noises there, which again, it's louder when it's in that wide open watts mode. The four-wheel steering in this truck makes it feel a little bit more nimble as you make turns, and it's kind of nice to have. It's standard equipment on all versions of the Silverado EV, although this truck is lacking the crab walk feature that you get in the GMC Hummer EV or in the Sierra EV Denali. So there's something, of course, that Chevy had to take out for this truck to make it not quite as upscale, obviously, as the GMC or the Hummer versions. But other than that, the seats are very comfortable. The ride quality also is more comfortable than I remembered first testing this truck out in Detroit 6 months ago. It could just be possible that Chevy engineers have retuned the suspension in this model. It's a later build version. Let's try a 0 to 60 run here, but this time we're not going to have it in wide open watts. We're just going to have it in the My mode. Noticeably slower in this mode, noticeably slower. 5.12 seconds there. So in normal mode, without the launch of the wide open watts, you basically add a second to the 0 to 60 time, which isn't bad. I mean, 4.13 is definitely better, but still 5 seconds all day long when you're in the normal mode or the My mode or whatever you want to have it in is still an appropriately quick time. But just remember, there are trucks in this segment that are going to be faster. Sadly, the Silverado EV RST and the Sierra EV Denali are technically the slowest trucks that you're going to find, slowest electric trucks. But slow, 4 seconds is certainly like not slow, but it's just slow when you have sub 4-second runs and sub 3-second runs, a lot of its competitors. Now, the one thing I don't like about this truck is the one pedal drive, the regen function. This is in the normal setting. You can adjust it to put it into, to turn it off completely, which I actually think is easier to drive this truck smoother. When you have it in normal, you can also go into a high mode. The high mode is unbearable. It's just too much regen braking. It's constantly slamming on the brakes is what it feels like when you have it in the regen mode. So I would honestly just have it in normal. It's still a little bit too much in normal. I want something kind of in between normal and off. But once you get used to it, this truck is relatively, easy to drive. The ride quality, like I said earlier, was significantly worse when I first tested this truck, but here on my local roads, the 24-inch wheels, they do a decent job of not crashing over bumps. The suspension at least does a good job of that. It's got an adaptive air suspension. In my mode here, I have it set to the suspension dampers and comfort. Visibility out of this truck is also pretty good. I can see out of the front, the side. The rear isn't great, but you can kind of fix that by going into the digital camera rearview mirror, and that gives you that huge wide angle view. This pillar here, the A pillar, is on the larger, thicker side. You've got these large side mirrors, which is nice. You have the full suite of GM Super Cruise standard on this trim. So this truck offers the full speed range, adaptive cruise control. It offers true hands-free driving on highways where it has it mapped out, and it's one of the best systems in the industry. So the Super Cruise really shows you that GM is serious about their driver assist technology. The ride quality in here is also better. The seats are comfortable, although they don't really hold you in place at all for spirited driving, considering this is the rally sport truck. And then in terms of the build quality, I definitely was hearing my fair share of rattles in this interior. Over bumps, I would hear panels rattling. It just wasn't a great, ambiance to hear that noise, especially when you have a near 6-figure price tag. Material quality also isn't great. The infotainment system, it is large and in charge, but it's missing wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto because, again, GM thinks that for their EVs, their native system is better, where you can have Google built in. You have their Google Play Store where you can download apps like Waze and Spotify, but if you're a listener of Apple Music, you're going to be out of luck, obviously, until GM decides to give us actual Apple Music to download through the Google Play Store, which Google and Apple don't really play nice. I don't see them doing that in the near future. And then in terms of the range, let's talk about that, because that's the biggest selling feature with the Sierra and the Silverado EV RST. Now, this truck on a full charge was showing around 440 miles. That's a little bit less versus the 460 that for 2025 it was rated at. 440 is what the rating was for 2024. In my actual testing, where we're talking about 40-degree temperatures, I actually was able to get around 420 miles of range in around town driving. So over 400 miles in around town driving is excellent. On the highway, I did around 405 miles of range. So that, the last time I got a range figure that excellent was when I was driving around in the Lucid Air. The Lucid Air, one of the slipperiest in terms of coefficient of drag EVs that you can find, and a much smaller battery pack. So this is an excellent range figure, and it really solves the whole range anxiety thing, because this offers 100 miles more range versus a Lightning, which is fantastic. Even the Rivian R1S, the most range you can get from that vehicle is around 420 miles, I believe. So this gets better range than that vehicle, and same thing with the Sierra EV Denali. That's gonna give you, again, best-in-class range. So that 205 kilowatt-hour battery pack is certainly very usable when you guys are looking for the longest range in terms of, if you guys plan on doing road trips, this is gonna be excellent. If you guys plan on towing, this will tow up to 12,500 pounds. You should be able to actually do so and tow decent amounts of distances, unlike the F-150 Lightning, which has too small of a battery pack. So I applaud Chevy for giving us the quickest range, or the best range, and one of the quickest charging EV trucks on the market. But there are certainly some things about this truck that make me question whether I should, just buy one of its competitors or just buy the Sierra EV Denali, because the one thing I don't like about this truck is the interior. It just feels incredibly cheap with lots of squeaks and rattles that I don't love. But once you kind of get past that, if you like the styling of this truck and you want the biggest range, it certainly may be worth a look. But just keep in mind, the GMC version, I personally think looks better, has a much nicer interior, and is only about $3,000 more versus the cost of the Silverado EV. So after spending a full week with the Chevy Silverado EV RST, I have to say, guys, for long-range electric trucks, this is without a doubt the best. I easily got over 400 miles of range in my real-world testing. As you guys also saw, 0 to 60 happened in just over 4 seconds, which is honestly quick enough. Yes, it's not the quickest accelerating truck, but that's not the point of buying a vehicle like this. In fact, what Chevy has offered here is a truck that you could actually tow with decent distances because of the large battery pack, and it also offers a ton of flexibility from that multi-flex midgate, which again is kind of a game changer in the segment. No other EV truck even comes close to the flexibility. Although personally for me, the big question is whether you want to go for the GMC version or the Chevrolet version, because while the ride quality is better versus the first time I tested this vehicle out in Detroit with the big 24s, it actually was a lot more comfortable this time. Handling wise, this vehicle feels large and cumbersome, and I also didn't love the torque steer that you would experience from an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive truck. You shouldn't be feeling front-wheel drive torque steer in a vehicle that's this big, and that's because again of the way GMC has tuned, or GM has tuned the electric motor power delivery. It gives you all that power instantaneously, but it also carries over some of that torque steer from the GMC Hummer truck, which I don't appreciate in a vehicle like this. But overall, in terms of the exterior design, that's a subjective thing. The backseat offers a ton of space. The interior offers a ton of technology, although I really would like to see Chevy re-offer their wireless Apple CarPlay functionality into this truck. I think their electric vehicles need to offer it as well. Just give people that option. You don't necessarily have to be stuck using the native system. And of course, if you're looking to get your hands on the Silverado EV RST, well, we've been waiting a long time, but they are finally in dealership showrooms. They've been on sale for a few months now, and Chevrolet has reduced the price compared to when this truck first came out. So you can now get into a base LT version, which comes standard, of course, with an extended range battery pack and dual motor all-wheel drive for around $73,000 for the base LT. That is, of course, going to be more expensive versus the Lightning, about $10,000 more expensive versus the Ford F-150 Lightning, but the Rivian R1T is around $70,000. A Tesla Cybertruck is around $75,000. If you guys want to go to the RST trim, it's going to start at around $80,000. Plus another $8,000 if you guys want the max battery pack, the larger battery pack versus the extended range battery pack. My particular test car here with the max battery pack with destination stickers for just over $97,000, which I know is a ton of money, but if you guys are comparing a fully loaded version of the F-150 Lightning, that's going to be around 90 grand for the Platinum, which the Lightning offers around 100 less miles of range. So that's kind of a reason to just spend the extra 7 grand to go for the Silverado EV RST. But for me personally, I would easily spend an extra $3,000 for the Sierra EV Denali, which has a much better look on the outside, a much nicer interior as well. And it's really going to make you wonder if it's even worth it to buy the Chevy version when the GMC offers a lot more luxury and a better looking design for not that much more money. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Chevrolet Silverado EV RST. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.